can you give us the elevator speech of who you are, where you come from?
Sure. My name is Danielle Alberco. I'm a producer on War on the Diamond. Born and raised in Cleveland.
All right.
Lived away for over 10 years in New York and Los Angeles. Made my way back to Cleveland in about 2012. And yeah, I'm excited to be here, and this was a labor of love, as I think with everybody on the film that did it. Everyone's extremely passionate about the Ray Chapman story. So yeah.
So were you aware of who Ray Chapman was before this project came across your desk?
It's interesting because my dad actually gave me the book, The Pitch That Killed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about, I want to say maybe 12 years ago. And I think it was an email that I still have, and he said, you know, Danielle, this would be a great movie.
Really?
And yeah, and at the time I was working in production and, you know, looking at different stories. And so that sat with me for a long time. And I got in touch with Pam Sullivan, who's another producer on the film. And she was working with Mike Sowell, the writer. And she had gotten the rights about 10 years earlier to do a narrative project. And then I talked to her, and it was during the pandemic, right at the start of the pandemic. Yeah. So I said, we should do a documentary. And then that started rolling the whole thing, and I got in touch with Art Haran, who is a producer on it as well. He's out in LA. He's a fantastic producer. He did The Usual Suspects in 1995, I believe. And he was blown away by the story, too.
Nice,
He's a big Yankees guy. So as soon as I...
We won't hold that against him,
right,
really.
Yeah, and that's what's so funny, is that people on this film, you know, I lived in New York for a long time, so, you know, I've gone to the Yankees games. I love the Indians, obviously.
Of course.
And then so Art was...
Or the Guardians, as it would be.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. The Guardians. Everyone's getting a little bit confused with the name right now, so we're transitioning, I know, to the Guardians. But, yeah, so Art loved the story. He read the email that I pitched to him that, you know, talked about these amazing players of the time, Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, and everything that went on during that year, 1920. And so, you know, the rest is history, I guess, because he was ready to go, and we moved forward and got Andy Billman.
Wow, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the very beginning, a tip of the hat to Dad. And Dad's everywhere. I love that.
Of course, sadly, he passed away in 2013.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear
that's
that.
okay, you know, but that was sort of my passion that I think kept me going.
Well, that brings so much more after having seen the movie at the premiere. That brings so much more to it right now. So
absolutely.
And for you, that has to be just
it's major.
Astronomical.
It's major because it felt like for a while it was sort of his idea.
Right, yeah.
So, and I
then
read,
you were kind of there doing it together.
Yeah, right. And I read the book, and I was fascinated by the story, and I thought all the characters were amazing and what was going on during that time. And interesting, they played during the Spanish flu. That's one thing we didn't touch upon in the film. That was something that was sort of left out a little bit, but you know, they were playing during that and all the struggles they went through. And now, you know, 100 years later, over 100 years later, what we dealt with, similar things in baseball, and the, you know, the crowd not being able to show up. So, and that's in the book as well, in The Pitch That Killed. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so you have to tell me, because those of us who are not in the industry, producer.
Yeah.
What is a producer? What do they do? And what is your role in this whole thing?
Sure. A producer wears many hats. So you're, you know, setting the project up, getting it off the ground, getting people attached to it. Then, of course, going out and finding the investors. We have amazing investors. Eric Lipper, he's one of our investors. He's a big baseball guy. So we're very lucky to have our investors come on board. So, you know, you get in front of those people, and you hopefully they love the idea on the project, and that happened for us pretty quickly. I think it was August we secured the rights of the book, and then 5 months later we had the funding. So
that seems to
fast.
me quick.
Quick.
Yeah. But then again, it's all having the right project and the right person.
At the right time, too.
You must have to have a large book of people to call on for different sorts of things.
Well, you would think. You know, everybody's different. You know, some people have books of investors, and I'm always meeting new people. You know, and that's the way to do it too. So, but yeah, so you find the investors and the funding, and then you bring on the talent, you hire everybody. So, you know, the production assistants, the editor, everything. That's what the producers do. They find everybody, they get them on board, they hire them, they make sure that everything is running smoothly and everybody's staying on budget. And of course, making Andy Billman, our fantastic director, happy. So, yeah.
So yeah, you're kind of the boss.
Yeah.
You're kind of the boss.
Say.
All right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, you know, every good boss is good at delegating. And,
Yeah.
and they have to give up responsibility, hire good people, and let them do their job.
Yeah.
So, you know, after watching the movie, there was obviously some talent there that you kind of reenacted some things. So when it comes to things like that, is that something that is done by yourself? Is that in a room with other people? Or is that something that
like
you're
the
just...
casting?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did that. Pam and I were sort of on the casting end of it. So we worked with the Cleveland Film Commission. Actually, they've been a fantastic resource for us. And they had their actors that we found through them. And
Okay.
they all, which is I think is so interesting, auditioned on Zoom. Because again, we were doing
course,
this during
yeah.
a pandemic. And they were all the first call, which is so crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it just
again, the right
sort of
people.
like came to us, yeah, kind of. And the first call with each of them, we just said, "Oh, you're perfect," because they are, and they really, you know, our Ray Chapman actor really, I feel like really embodied Ray Chapman. Looks like him. He's lovable. You know, he was lovable during filming, and the nicest guy.
Wow, yeah. So he
that
really
was
lived
cool.
the part.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
And it's interesting doing it all over Zoom too.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
You kind of think whenever you interview somebody, it's
Yeah.
never the person that shows up.
Yeah,
So
right.
even on Zoom, it makes it all the more.
Yeah.
So going through the process, were there times that you were, I don't even know if I'm using the right verbiage to say more excited, less excited?
You know, there's so many ups and downs, especially during a pandemic, and we made this film during a pandemic. But I love it all. I really do. I enjoy the process, and especially working with such talented people. Andy Billman, our director, he's amazing. He worked for ESPN for a long time, produced, I believe, over 100 films.
Wow.
And he directed Believe Land in 2016. And when I watched that, I felt connected to him. I'm from Cleveland, so he was just a natural fit. And he loves the Chapman story. I mean, he knew about it. He was involved with it. Loves baseball. I mean, if you had to talk to one person about sports, Andy Billman is the guy to sit down and talk to.
And sounds like probably sharing a passion.
Yeah.
And that comes through in the film because,
Yeah.
you know, I think most everybody in the crowd were baseball fans, but
Right.
boy, to feel the energy in the room was something.
It's a connector, right? Baseball.
It is.
So-
Well, isn't that what we all say? You know, sports are the thing that ground us and take us away from everything else
Yeah.
in life. And
Yeah, when I think of growing up in Cleveland and going to the Indians games, it's the memory is being with my family at the games and going and eating hot dogs. Of course, the baseball is important, but
hot dogs are pretty important.
Right. But so baseball, I just think people gravitate towards it and connect with other people and, you know, talk about the teams and how exciting it is. And Andy's that guy. I mean, he sits in an interview and he'll interview somebody with no notes and he's just talking baseball. And he's very, very talented guy. So I feel lucky that we were able to get him.
Well, that's got to
direct
be
it.
great
Yeah.
to work with somebody
Yeah,
like that.
that was exciting when Andy said he wanted to do it and how he was going to tell it, and you know, the rivalry between New York and Cleveland.
Right. Yeah.
And when you really look at the way that he told the story, it's interesting. It's
Yes.
things that a lot of people don't know about. So yeah.
And just so you all know that there is going to be another showing on Saturday, 2:40. But of course, you can stream it as well, so you have the opportunity to still see the movie. And I don't want to give away too much of the story here for some of those folks that might have not been able to see it yet. So I have to assume that going through the progress of the movie, that dealing with COVID was probably your biggest challenge. Was it any other challenges that would have stood out?
I think, because you know there was hard to meet people. Everybody is spread out. Art Haran, he's in LA. Pam is in Newport in California. I'm in Cleveland. Andy's in Connecticut. So that I think was challenging. And Yeah, there was many ups and downs.
Which I'm sure is with every project, but
Yeah, and again, everybody's so passionate about it, but we all worked so great together. And one issue that we had was one of our facilities for the uniforms that we used in the film.
I mean, you can't just go to the
No,
local
you
store and
cannot
get
find
those. No,
Yeah,
I didn't think so.
So Pam, our producer, found this costume facility in Los Angeles, and they were supposed to ship them like 2 days before we had the shoot, and they closed due to COVID.
Of course.
So we're like, you need to drive your car to Los Angeles from Newport tomorrow and get in this facility, talk to anyone you can, and then, we ended up finding a woman in Connecticut to make them in a day.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's better than driving across the country.
Yeah, right. So, it came together, but yeah, of course, that's little stressful moments of production that I think people don't really think about. You got a shoot date and then something happens, falls through. You really only have that day to get it done.
Well, I don't think it matters what anybody does. From the outside, it all looks easy. And you watch the film and it looks, oh, that's seamless. But that's why it's good to actually get the story behind the story, to get an idea of...
Yeah, we were scrambling at that point. Pam and I, that was one hard day, because we had the actors traveling and everybody getting there, so we had to really scramble. But thank God we found this very talented woman who made them in one day, really. That was her turnaround.
That's the day when it's not good to be the boss, right?
Yeah, and actually one other thing with that is that we were so lucky to work with the baseball museum at League Park.
Oh, yeah.
They loaned us the Cleveland jersey. So that another thing that happened in a day, secured in a day, and I was out of town. I had a friend go pick it up and ship it. So, but yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that kind of leads me to tell me about what it was like working with the Indians organization. Obviously, they were very involved in many ways. Again, I don't want to give too much information, but describe some of how that came about and how it was to work with the organization.
Yeah, well, Bob DiBiasio is one of the nicest guys, and he knows everybody, and everybody knows him, which is so cool. So we got connected with Bob through some local people, and yeah, as soon as Bob, heard about the story, heard about Andy, people love Andy and his films, and they know about Believe Land, and that really struck a chord in people. So once Bob said yes, I want to be involved, then he was able to help us get secure the other interviews. So he was fantastic to work with, and they are amazing. I mean, they are so great to work with. I mean, that was the easy part for me.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so they were fantastic, and I think Bob's a standout interview in the film. He's just
without giving anything away. He crushes it. He really does. So as he always does.
Yeah. And all the interviews I thought just were amazing. Again, Andy sitting down. I was at most of the shoots and most of all the interviews, and so I just saw Andy sit there and talk to people about baseball. And every single interview I was blown away by. So, and Bob was one of them. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me, and you shared a little bit off camera with me. What else is happening with this movie, and how does that affect you and the other parts of your team?
Yeah, well, we're working towards distribution, so that's next on the table. But we have Newport Film Festival coming up in 2 weeks that we're really excited about. We're the closing night film.
Wow.
So yeah,
good for you.
It's going to be a blast. I'm really excited about that. And then that's how it goes. So
you're opening in Chagrin and closing in Newport.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well
so
done.
we do this little festival run, and this is for me the most fun part. Showing up and having fun and talking to everybody and thanking everybody. That was a lot of what I was doing last night, and I couldn't talk to everybody I wanted to, so that kind of bummed me out. But I tried as hard as I could to thank everybody, because everybody did amazing and they showed up, and again, during a pandemic. So.
I'm assuming that you're not just working on one project at a time.
Yeah, no.
Tell us about some of the other projects that you might have been doing during this filming, and,
Yep.
and you might be doing now.
Yeah, I'm also a boxing fan, so I have some stories I can't really talk about, but some boxing films, and Pam and I are talking about some other projects, but it's focused on sports, a lot of them, which I think just sort of comes naturally. And Andy's probably going to work on one as well.
Yeah,
and
well, you've got that
art
connection.
as well, art
Yeah.
too. We're talking about a boxing film. So yeah, you just have sort of multiple projects going on and hope that one drops. That's the way
Right,
I
sure.
look at it.
So where do these, you mentioned obviously for this film that the idea kind of came from your father.
Yeah.
So, but where are some of the other inspirations that kind
Yeah,
of...
I would say reading. My dad instilled for all of my sister and brother to read a lot. And so books, inspiration comes from books. Articles, I love reading the newspaper, and it sounds strange, but I used to wake up and read the LA Times, New York Times.
You're
every
too
day.
young to read the paper.
Yeah. But I mean, I did that, it's so funny, back in college,
Right.
actual paper sitting in a coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it comes from that. Reading articles, I think, is big, key. Going to the library, reading research. So yeah, it comes from mostly reading, I would say. And talking to people, meeting people. I think
Right.
that's a big thing. I've met people on planes or in different cities, and I've thought, oh, well, they would be a good character. Just, I don't know, it's just talking to people.
Well, I mean, there's so many different points that you need to bring together to make something like this happen.
Yeah.
Again, whether it be a book of investors or just a network of people,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a lot of people that, so you've got to keep adding to that.
Yeah,
because-
of course. Yeah, I'm excited to.
So what do you hope that the people that are watching the film, above and beyond, learning more about the Ray Chapman story, is there anything else that you really hope that people get out of the movie?
Yeah, I would say that what we talked about earlier about baseball, the love of baseball. I think we went through such a hard time during the pandemic, and Ray Chapman, it's a sad story, but then they came back and they won the World Series. So it's bittersweet in that way, and they rallied to win the World Series through all that. And there was a lot of commotion that we didn't even get to in the documentary. We didn't have enough time, but they fought over the funeral. They got in a fist fight, Tris Speaker, the manager.
Oh boy.
So, I just think people should take the love of baseball and the connection to other people, relationships. For me, I think
Very good, yeah.
Tris Speaker and Ray Chapman were best friends, and they really...
And that's a part of what made the Indians successful for that point in time
yeah,
in
I
their
would think
history.
so. I think it's very important, yeah.
Are there any things from the pandemic and COVID, any of the operations and that you're going to utilize to your advantage moving forward?
I think, yeah. I think the industry is changing where you don't have to live in Los Angeles. That was so instilled in me for
Right,
a long
sure.
time. Like, oh, well, can I still do this living in Cleveland? And I think you absolutely can. And especially through the pandemic, everybody's using Zoom, connecting with people that way. And everybody is just spread out, lives all over. So, yeah.
So do you think there's that, obviously you mentioned Pam, it seems like you guys are a team. Are there any other people that you're going to use on a regular basis that are part of your
Well,
team?
I think
Or is
I would
every
love to. I would
project-
work with everyone again on this project. We look what we did in the time frame that we had, and I would love to work with every one of them. So that would be my hope.
There's one other thing, and I think we're getting to the end of
Yeah,
time,
sure.
but there's one other thing that, the film industry, and I know the film industry has changed a great deal. Can you, without giving any secrets away about what's going to happen with the film, kind of give our viewers like a Reader's Digest version of what you as a filmmaker are trying to do to get your film to market and how that works?
Like the distribution. you mean?
Distribution channel.
I would say again, getting out, meeting people is key. You never know who you're going to talk to that will bring something to the table. So I think getting out, meeting people, creating new relationships too is key. You can't just stick with the same, there's not a book that tells you how to do it.
But the film festivals still have a place in that process, right?
Yeah, of course.
Which,
the
of
film-
course, here
Yes,
at
right.
CDFF, we're very happy
Yes,
to have that.
yes, and I think I'm attending an event for distribution, so I think that's coming up. So I will be there talking to people.
Well, this has been an absolute treat. I've learned so much. Hopefully everybody else
Yeah.
has too. If you haven't seen the movie, come out and see it, either streaming and live. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being
so
here.
much. Thanks for having me. Thank you, guys.